Hello? Yes? I know the reviews know me up, but I don't want to do it. I really don't. We all know what the review's gonna be. It was of the season. Okay, I better get on with this Sheffield Wednesday season review then. Hi guys, and welcome to this season review. If you could like, share, and subscribe to the channel, I'd much appreciate it. Liking helps the algorithm, sharing it in front of people's faces, and subscribing show me how much you like the content. Now, let's get on with this because I really don't want to do this season review. It's one of the ones where I haven't been wanting to do for a while. But let's start at the very beginning. The season was always going to be difficult for us considering we had the minus 12 point deduction. That made recruiting people to the club a lot harder. And trying to get people in. We got people in like Josh Windass, Shea Dunkley, even though he was out for most of the season with injury. Patterson, Brown on loan, Kachunga, Aiden Yoho, who was from the Everton setup, but he'd been out injured. He'd been in the under 23. Dave Batshuayi, who's done okay, and Marriott on loan as well as Flint. We all know what's happened with Marriott. Flint, we could have kept a little bit. It will be interesting to see what would have happened if we didn't have that point deduction and how the mental side of the game would have been for us. But it wasn't a great recruitment when you saw how many players we lost in that summer. Now, we needed strikers, and we didn't really go for any, and having that minus 12 was always going to be difficult. So before we start into the game during the season, I'm just going to get the cup games out of the way. So we got to the third round of the EFL Cup and got knocked out by Fulham, beating Walsall and Rochdale on the way. And we got to the fourth round of the FA Cup, beating Exeter, but then getting beat by Everton. So in September, we got a 2-0 win versus Cardiff, and we got a 0-0 versus Watford and a 2-0 loss to Bristol City. October is where it tumbled as we started with a win versus Birmingham, and then we go on to a losing streak to Brentford, Luton, Rotherham and Wickham. And we come into November with the point deduction getting hard to sit -8, thinking that'll help the lads mentally and we could go on. Now, those games in there were Rotherham, a massive 3-0 loss to them. Wickham getting their first ever win in the Championship. And we were starting to become that team, if you had a bad run, come play us and we get you run back on side. In November, this is where our season went very odd indeed. We had a lot of Zoom meetings with DC, with journalists, most contact we've seen in a long time with stuff. Saying that, we did beat Bournemouth and draw with Millwall. And then we lost to Preston, where Gary Monk eventually got his marching orders. And this is where we got a really good, quick response by Chansiri in terms of hiring a manager. But it wasn't the right manager for Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. He went and got Tony Pulis, relegation specialist. You look at what he kind of thing was. It wasn't the kind of football we needed. We played Swansea and we got a very lucky 1-1 draw there. We played Stoke and got a 0-0. And then we were also finding out that players and staff at the club were now not getting paid on time. And this was starting to build a little bit of unrest at the club with the fan base. We're not knowing what's going on. And we kept on hearing about this. There's a cash problem at the club. There's a cash problem at the club. And you're really starting to question what is going on. We got a very lucky draw versus Reading when they should have won that game. They had a lot of shout for penalties. But we were having a habit of not being able to finish games out. And it was led to silly goals in and to lose games. And we lost a lot of our games in like the 80th minute onwards. And it was just the mentality side of the club and players just hasn't been great. We lost 2-1 to Huddersfield. We lost 2-1 to Norwich, sorry. Huddersfield beat us 2-0. Barnsley 2-1. And at the time, we're having a new manager bounce themselves. And we put a very poor display in against Nottingham Forest, losing 2-0. We did win at Cardiff at we did win at Cardiff, and we got a 1-1 versus Blackburn. But on the 28th of December, Pulis was sacked as Wednesday's manager, having secured 1 victory in 10 league games. Guy Sports reported that a major disagreement between Pulis and club owner Chansiri over transfer plans in the up-and-coming January transfer window was the main cause of Pulis' dismissal. Chansiri later described the appointment as a mistake. He made 1 win in that 45 in charge with Wednesday, and at least 45 days at this point. I'm thinking, where the hell are we going to get a goal from? We can't go from behind. We put Neil Thompson in charge. We beat Middlesbrough 2-1 though. We were great. But this whole thing with this season being very up and down, up and down. 1 minute we can beat a club, but then there's no consistency going forward. We face Derby and we get a win. One thing we were doing, you've got a poor run and terrible run, you come and face us and we can fix it. January, Coventry got a 1-0 win. Preston got a 1-0 win. Managed to beat Bournemouth again. And in January, we had a lot of players linked. A lot of people linked to the job, but no one really got appointed. At the same time as this, we also had the whole stuff coming out about Eric Alonso. So apparently Eric wanted to bring in Paul Cook. It didn't come through. And he eventually got the Ipswich job with them being taken over themselves. We were aware a lot of people were also found out that Shaw had got a pre-contract signing with Celtic at the time. And we knew he was going. He'd only made 15 appearances, but we were like, okay, then he'd go. But the Eric Alonso thing was interesting. Let's talk about that for a little bit. He was apparently an advisor to Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, but then Chansiri said he wasn't. He tried to buy Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, and it got turned down by our ownership. Now, at the current time of recording, he has attempted to buy Derby County. Now, according to some sources, that deal has fallen through because he can't show the funds, but he's still turning around and saying that, no, it's still on, I still got to go, even though Derby are now looking at American ownership instead. But it was really interesting little story and saga to our terrible car crash of the season, having that in the middle. February, we got smacked by Millwall after being ahead. We lost 4-1. We beat Wickham. We got Dunkley back for some of those games. He looked good, but then he kept on picking up little knocks. We lost to Stoke. We lost to Birmingham, and they eventually had that new manager back with Bowyer. And after leaving Charlton, we got beat by Brentford 3-0, and we managed to lose to Luton after being 2-0 up at half-time, and losing 3-2. And we're at that situation where we can't keep leads. We struggled to get the lead all this season, and this was an issue. And it was just one of these things where it was getting more and more frustrating doing it. And you're like, when are we going to learn? But the beginning of March was very, very shocking for us as we appointed then Doncaster Rovers manager Darren Moore and his team. We were all starting to think, are we looking to League One with him being really good in that league, with Doncaster just missing out on playoff first time round, and they were looking good. Up until recently when we took him, I think they lost 5 on the bounce. I could be wrong there. We lose to Rotherham in a must-win game thanks to a corner we took by Brown, and they scored on the 96th minute. And it was such a hammer blow, and we needed to win that. We lose 3-0. I can't remember who that was to. We lost 2-1 to Norwich. Got a good draw versus Huddersfield, and we were starting to look okay under Moore. And we got a 2-1 win versus Barnsley just before the international break for 2 weeks, which was fantastic, thinking we can get time on the pitch with the players, they can have some work, because at that point Darren Moore hadn't done much with the lads at all, so they hadn't known much to what was going on. But then in April, we lose Darren Moore due to COVID-19. He had to self-isolate. We lose to Watford, but we get a cracking win versus Cardiff 5-0. But we don't keep that run going, and we go and lose 4-1 versus QPR. It's good to point out that we lose Iorfa and Dunkley and Westwood for a lot of the games, so we never had a settled back four all season. We lost to Swansea with Darren Moore on the sideline, but he does not come back to the game till the last game of the season as he got put in hospital. He had COVID. Again, he had pneumonia as well, and he had blood clots on his lungs, and that was not what he wanted to do. He needed to be in somewhere to take care of himself. But that being said, he did constantly keep bringing the assistant and finding out and getting things sorted. We get a draw versus Bristol City. We should have won that game. Barry Bannon penalty was very poor. I don't want to bemoan on that because at the end of the day, he'll be beating himself up over that. But we need to win that. We beat Blackburn, and you were starting to see maybe we could do it, but then Middlesbrough beat us 3-1. And having Rotherham having games in hand due to all their game called off with COVID, they were getting chances to probably get out of the situation, but sadly they did not take advantage of it. So in May, we play Nottingham Forest. We didn't win. We didn't win it. We needed to win it, but we got a draw. Luckily, they should have gone ahead due to a penalty. Didn't happen. It was a great save by Westwood. But then we were looking at the game versus Swansea versus Derby. And we were starting to have this thing where games, we could only affect our game. All the other games had to go for us. And at times they were doing. But the stupid thing is, we took this to the last game of the season. And I don't know how we did that. Every Wednesday fan doesn't know how Sheffield Wednesday Football Club managed to take this to the last game of the season. So, the last game of the season is a 3-3 draw with Derby. But at one point, Rotherham are winning, which would have sent us down. But they get a draw. Their Cardiff goal, as just as we give a penalty away to let Derby go to make it 3-3, which in the end sends us down and puts us bottom of the championship with Rotherham and Wickham just above us, and Derby literally, I think, surviving on a point. Now, thank you for your support this season on the channel. I have much appreciated it. We hit over 1,000 subscribers, which is something I've always wanted to do on the channel, and it keeps on growing. I've managed to, on a personal level, I've managed to make a very good friendship with Dexterity Box. We launched the Talking Wednesday podcast just in January, and it's doing extremely well as it stands, and we enjoy doing that, and it's been great. There's a lot of stuff to come in the summer with Wednesday, I'm sure. Lots of things we're going to be talking about, players, recruitment, maybe some off the field stuff, which we've already spoke about before at times. It's going to be an interesting summer, but thank you for your support this season on the channel. I'll see you already going this in the summer with whatever Wednesday stuff I can find, and also starting ready for life in League One. We didn't want to be there, but we're there now. So let's just make the best of the situation in League One next season. Thank you again for all the support on the channel this season, and let's keep pushing on and moving on and see where this can go. This has been a car crasher season for Wednesday, but on a YouTube channel personal note, it's been fantastic for me. So swings and roundabouts, I guess. Hey.